Well, Mandalorian Season 3 is finally well and truly here, and there is so much to break down in the first episode, so let's get straight into it. We begin the episode with the armor forging what is eventually revealed to be a Mandalorian helmet, one specifically made for the induction of a new foundling. The ceremony proceeds and we finally get to see more from the Children of the Watch, the different types of Mandalorians with different styles and colors of armor. The last time we saw this many gathered was back in the first few episodes of Season 1, and since the events that took place on Navarro, the entire cult has mostly been scattered, so this just might be an indication of how many cult members there are. As the ceremony begins, we see the sigil of the mythosaur, the legendary beast that once roamed Mandalore and has since become its symbol. Next to it, we get to see what looks to be a variation of another symbol also seen on Boba Fett's armor. And while we don't exactly know what the symbol means in canon, in Legends the symbol was the sigil of Jaster Mereel, a Journeyman Protector on Concord Dawn, a lawman of sorts, but he would later become a Mandalorian and raise an orphaned Jango Fett, so the symbol that we see here might be from another Journeyman Protector turned Mandalorian. Paz Vizsla makes a return, and as the armor performs the necessary rituals, notice that the color scheme of the boy's helmet closely resembles and matches that of Clan Vizsla, who also wear similar bluish tones, so this may very well be the newest member of their clan. The boy here goes by the name of Ragnar, and the entire scene really does echo a certain scene as fans of the Vikings will know. But the entire ceremony is interrupted by a massive crocodile monster, and while for the most part the Mandalorians get absolutely ragdolled by the creature, notice that the only clan that really coordinated their attacks was Clan Vizsla, which might indicate that they are by far the strongest and most organized clan within the Watch. The crocodile does a death roll as crocodiles do in real life, and another thing to note is that for the most part a lot of the focus of the Mandalorians was saving other Mandalorians, which goes a long way in showing just how much of a brotherhood they are. Mando and Grogu sweep in to save the day, and honestly, I'm just grinning like an idiot at this point. Mando meets up with the armorer and the two discuss how Mando can redeem himself and whether it's still possible given the uninhabitable state of Mandalore. Mando shows the armorer a shard which was the result of the glassing of Mandalore, something the Empire did back in the Night of 1,000 Tears. The armorer tells Mando that he needs to bathe in the living waters of Mandalore, and much of this is really just a recap of what we learned back in the book of Boba Fett. Mando and Grogu head to Navarro, and on their way, Grogu sees the shapes of some mysterious creatures while traveling through hyperspace. These are none other than the Purgles, one of the few sentient species that can travel through hyperspace without the help of technology. The Purgles were first introduced back in Rebels and are a huge plot point when it comes to Thrawn, seeing as how they were instrumental in his defeat, at least for now. The two land on Navarro, which has since become a bustling independent trade port. We get to see an astromech unit that looks like R5 and an EV supervisor droid and a droid chopping vegetables, the very same type of droid that was first introduced in the book of Boba Fett. We get to see a Mon Calamari and Kowakian monkeys, the very same species as Salacious B. Crumbs, Jabba's pet in The Return of the Jedi. The two make a stop by IG-11 statue and meet up with Greef Karga. And if you pay close attention, you'll notice that there are two droids following close behind him holding up his cape, clearly befitting the Magistrate of Navarro.
That's High Magistrate Karga to you.
Greef mentions that Navarro is now connected to the Hydian Way, and the Hydian Way is actually a super hyperspace route, a route which leads directly into the core worlds, which also explains why Navarro has now become such a prosperous town. Greef Karga gets notified about the pirates harassing the local school, the school which we first visited back in Season 2 of The Mandalorian. We learn that these pirates belong to the Pirate King Gorian Shard, an entirely new character, and his right-hand man is known as Vane, also a newly introduced character. The two sides have a bit of a standoff, and it all ends the way we expect. Greef tells Mando that he needs a new marshal, and Mando asks about Cara Dune, who was originally set to be the new marshal of Navarro. However, we then learn that she is not here because she was recruited by the New Republic Special Forces. Yep, that's totally what happened. We also learn that Gideon is now standing trial in the War Tribunal, which leaves an option open for his return. Mando asks why Greef doesn't just ask the New Republic to send a marshal, but Greef insists on Navarro's independence, stating that Navarro can be the first truly independent trade hub in the sector. This kind of thinking kind of goes hand in hand with some of these separatists during the Clone Wars. Mando tells Greef that he wants to repair IG-11 as he needs him for a mission, but it all goes wrong as IG defaults back to his original programming. But luckily, Greef's droid manages to stop it.
Now that's using your head.
The group then head to the Enzellan workshop, the same species as Babu Frick first introduced back in The Rise of Skywalker, and Grogu's reaction says it all.
No, Grogu.
The mechanics tell Mando that the IG is Poodoo, which is a rather common Star Wars term first introduced back in the prequels. Mando agrees to get the necessary parts to fix the droid, and the two head off. However, the two are intercepted by the pirates from earlier, and what comes next is honestly one of the most creative space battles I have ever seen in Star Wars. Beyond just a simple case of Mando flying around and turning the tables, the way in which he uses the asteroids as cover to outmaneuver his enemies is incredibly refreshing to watch. It also demonstrates that Mando's new fighter is far more superior than the pirates, which is not surprising given that the Naboo starfighter was designed for maneuverability and combat. Mando ends up facing against the pirates' frigate, and we get to meet Gorian Shard, who honestly looked like a crossbreed between fried kale and seaweed. The two escape and make it to Kalevala, a planet in the Mandalorian system, which is where we get to see Bo-Katan's castle. And as Mando walks towards the castle, I can't help but wonder if Mando is trying to create a swimming pool in his starfighter, given that he does leave the cockpit open when it's raining. We finally get to see Bo-Katan, and in the background, we can also see a mural of what looks to be a depiction of a Mandalorian civil war. And if you pay close attention to the details, you will notice that the warriors depicted are not wielding blasters but instead spears, indicating that the battle depicted must have taken place a long time ago. And it's also a reference to the real-life Spartans of which the Mandalorians were inspired from. Mando tells Bo-Katan he wants to join her in retaking Mandalore, but he tells him that there is nothing left to join. Her forces have abandoned her since she lost the Darksaber to Mando back in Season 2. Mando inquires about the Lost Fleet, which was first hinted at back in Season 2 when Mando helped Bo-Katan steal the Gazanti freighter. Bo-Katan tells him to lead the Mandalorians instead since he still has the saber, and you can definitely feel that she's not saying this because she cares, but rather because she is bitter. We get more hints at the antagonistic feelings Bo-Katan has regarding the Watch, blaming them and the other Mandalorian factions for splintering their people, which is kinda rich considering that she was part of Death Watch during the Clone Wars. Nonetheless, Mando heads off to Mandalore. So that was the breakdown for the first episode of Season 3 of The Mandalorian, and even though it was a short episode, it had some great pacing, and I really like the fact that we aren't wasting any time getting straight into the action. It has been a long wait since the book of Boba Fett, and it's great to see the cast all back together again. Anyways, that's all for this breakdown. Be sure to let me know what you think in the comments down below. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. I am the Lost Acolyte,
And I have spoken.